Hi, I'm Venus O'Hara and welcome to another video on my 30-day challenge. Almost getting to the end. It's incredible how much I'm learning from this challenge and how much I feel connected to all of you who make regular comments. And I'm really intrigued about masculinity now because a lot of you who've been commenting are men, and that's really interesting for me, especially talking about sexuality from an emotional perspective, the feeling of not having enough sex, feeling rejected and all of that. It's very interesting. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about 3 ways, or how to be a good lover, 3 tips. This was inspired by a comment I received yesterday, something about, I can't remember what the actual words were, but something about not knowing what you're doing in bed kind of thing. And then also I spoke to a female friend recently who just came out of a very long-term relationship, and then she said most men don't know what they're doing, referring to casual sex on the dating scene. And I thought, yeah, but we are all responsible for our own pleasure, and we're responsible for communicating our desires to someone else. I don't think we should blame men for being bad in bed, or anyone for that matter, because no one is a mind reader. I think it's really important to communicate your desires to someone. But let's go into my 3 tips. And also I'm reading this amazing book from a future podcast guest that I'm interviewing next week. It's all about consent and the importance of that, especially post Me Too, the Me Too era, and how that has influenced consent. So my number 1 point for being a good lover is to have consent and really communicate your desires and your intentions. I think that's so important. Your intentions, that could be emotional, sexual, for that moment especially. And also consent is not just a very kind of a conversation at the beginning to get someone's permission, but it's also important to monitor how it's going throughout, and maybe establish some rules such as hand squeezing or a safe word, things like that. Consent is really important because sometimes we can be in situations where we're both playing guessing games or just assuming, making lots of assumptions, and sometimes a yes can become a no. And when that transition happens, the person who wants to say no might freeze, and they don't really know how to, because they don't want to have like an awkward situation. This is especially true in the case of the film Anatomy of a Scandal, which I also reviewed on this channel, and I thought it was such an interesting conversation because the no was not communicated verbally. The woman just froze, and I've been in situations like that, and I can understand from the other person's perspective. They're like, you didn't say no, so how do I know you don't want it? So it's really, really, really important to have, or to establish some protocols when you are with someone, especially if you're doing something that's not habitual, something that's a bit out of the norm. You need to know what the limits are, what kind of sex you're expecting, and that's not that doesn't always refer to wild sex. It could be, going down on someone, or something very simple as well. So I think it's really important to share your intentions and your consent, and things that you really don't like. For example, I don't really like it when someone pulls my hair, or spitting, or slapping, things like that, which all these things have been normalized by mainstream porn, and that's not the kind of thing I want to have in my bedroom. I understand that some people might get off on that, but that's not me. And I think it's important to know where the boundaries are and to communicate them. Sometimes we talk about, safe words for the BDSM world, but it goes beyond that. It refers to every encounter. So that's really important. So consent, and establishing some protocols for if things are not going quite in the way you like them, and to monitor the other person's enjoyment, and if they are still into it. It's not just at the beginning and then you do it, but also to see throughout, is it okay, or to kind of ask the other person to express their desires throughout. That's very, very, very important. And also, if someone isn't concerned about that, that means they care about your pleasure, which is very, very, very important. You don't have sex with someone who doesn't care about your pleasure. Definitely not. Anyway, my number 2 point is generosity, sexual generosity. That means being actively engaged in pleasuring the other person, and also curiosity about getting to know their taste, not just, oh yeah, I'm going to shag you because you're available right now, but something like, oh, do you like that? And just being curious about finding out about what the other person likes, and just being generous as well. And so yeah, I think it's a 2-way thing, of course, generosity and curiosity. And once you have those 2 things, I mean, and it's going, both ways, wow, it's incredible what can happen. And maybe you might find some new things that you are enjoying, you want to explore as well. But it's very, very, very important to have that generosity. I mean, being with a selfish lover who just wants to think about themselves, that can happen maybe more in a casual encounter or if you don't express what you like. But once you're with someone who's really, you know, up for pleasuring you, that's just amazing. And some of you have been commenting things like that about really wanting to engage with the other person and pleasure them, and that's music to my ears that men like that exist. Okay, not just mine, I'm sure. And my last point has to be the energy. This is so important. I've always said in many of my written articles that good sex is, let me think, 95% about energy and 5% about technique. Well, if the technique's really bad, it's really bad. But let's imagine, let's say someone touches you here and you're very softly on your shoulder. When it's someone you really like, that can be like electric. It's really, wow, or someone touching your hand, what have you. But if it's someone you really can't stand, it's awful, it's a shudder. It's like, ooh, get off me. So the actual way we react to a touch is very important. It's not just about the touch in itself, it's about the energy and what that person provokes in you. So imagine if you have, let's say, an incredible energy with someone, this incredible desire, mutual desire, then the sex is probably going to be good, even if it's the most mundane kind of conventional sex. I remember a few years ago I was with a guy and it seemed like there were fireworks every time we were together. It was just so intense, but everything we did was just so conventional. We didn't do anything crazy. It was all very run-of-the-mill, missionary. I mean, it was all good, but I mean, I think the reason he drove me crazy was because I was so into him and he was so into me. So this being, you know, this energy that we created just made it, this situation and experiences we shared, made them very memorable. Yeah, even though there was nothing, you know, wouldn't, I don't know, technique-wise, it was very basic. That just goes to show that energy is very, very important. So those are my 3 points. We've got consent, generosity, curiosity, number 2. Sorry, consent, generosity, curiosity, both ways. And then finally, the energy. So what do you think? Do you have any other tips of how to be a good lover? Please share them with us so that we can all learn. This is such an exciting topic. And I look forward to reading your comments. I'm trying to be very on the ball with the comments and answering all of you. So I'm very, very grateful for all of you who are making comments on this such a personal but captivating and intriguing topic such as sexuality. I'll be back tomorrow with some more videos. And if you have any suggestions for new topics, don't hesitate to contact me at venus@venusohara.org, or you can leave me a comment. And yes, I'm nearly the end of my 30-day challenge. However, I'm still going to be making regular updates about all of these topics. I've really enjoyed it. And then also I wanted to tell you that I have another channel called The Orgasmic Lifestyle. And I need to give that channel a little bit of a boost and start publishing the videos of the interviews of my podcast, which are amazing. But I'm also thinking of doing a 30-day challenge on there, but sharing more of my lifestyle topics, let's say non-sexual topics, because there's a lot more to share, so I can kind of boost that. So let me know if you have any topics that you would like me to talk about as well, such as, you know, health, spirituality, books, other things that I am passionate about. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to go out now. I've got my makeup on. Woo! Anyway, have a lovely day and lovely evening. See you tomorrow.